Okay. We're doing surface, there's no subs, there's no CVs, and I'm only doing 9 and 10 because there's like 75,000 coal ships in low tier. Worth getting. We're doing worth getting first. Then we're doing good played solo and randoms. Then we're doing good played and ranked. Worth getting a gear is. I would never get a gear. There's no reason to play this ship, so there's no reason to get it. That doesn't mean it's dog shit, but there is really like no reason, right? This is like my account got deleted. I made a new account. What order am I getting these ships in, right? A gear, I would never get a gear again. Like, why would you pay? Yeah, it's just yeah. Elvaro, bro. Elvaro is S. Worth getting. Worth getting. Who are we kidding? Alvaro is one of the most unique destroyer experiences in the game. It's a good destroyer, and it's fun to play. Fun, unique, and good is an easy S tier worth getting. There's things that Alvaro can do that no other DD literally in the game can do, which is always trade more HP than it receives, no matter what its HP is. Alvaro on 30,000 HP is going to cost you half of your DD. Alvaro on 400 HP is going to cost you half of your DD. There's no other destroyer in the game that's true. And it's fun, and it's good. Absolutely worth getting. Azuma. I mean, it's a tier 9 cruiser in 2025. Right? Again, this is worth getting. Not is it good or bad. I don't know why you would get Azuma in 2025. I guess if you really just want a ship that gets good credits, then Azuma is maybe a bit worth getting, to be fair. Because Azuma's good and does farm credits because it gets good high average damage. So maybe we'll put it like in C for worth getting. I'm just not going to play a tier 9 cruiser voluntarily. The black is still probably reasonably worth getting, I would say. Well, honestly, with Katsonis though, man, this is actually tough because black was really worth getting. But then the Pan Euro DD line came out, and now it's not so much because like Katsonis is kind of just way better than Black at smoke radar gimmick. It's kind of way better. The one of the biggest problems that the Black has trying to smoke radar people is there's certain DDs that it just literally doesn't work against at all. Anything with 5+ kilometer hydro, Black's gimmick is worthless. Any DD with radar, Black's gimmick is worthless. Now, 4 years ago, all the Black had to worry about was like what, Z46 in tier 9. But like now you can run into Katsonis, Sherman, Lucian, Gdansk, Smoland, Ragnar, Vamp 2. There's just so many ships, man, that this thing gets put in a box by. Or they're not put in a box by. It's not that it's a bad ship. It's just like there's other ships in like the tech tree or for steel that are kind of like it's not that unique anymore, I guess, is my point. Brisbane worth getting. I think Brisbane is very worth getting. Um yeah. Yeah, one of the more worthwhile. Well, maybe we'll put it in like high B because it's mostly worth getting for clan battles and a bit of ranked, but it's definitely very worth getting. It's a very good ship. Carno, bro. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I say this as a Carno, as a once upon a time Carno enjoyer. As a once upon a time Carno enjoyer. The second that fucking line came out, the Marseille line came out, there instantly became zero reason to ever touch this boat. GK, absolutely not. Not only is it one of the worst battleships in the game in tier 10, but the Preußen as the tech tree version is just objectively superior in like 8 out of 10 situations. The one situation where GK is a bit better is it's a bit better at HE spamming and it's a bit better at slugging damage into battleships at close range, but like that's it, dude. That's all it has going for it. Groningen is really good. Very worth getting. If you don't have Friesland, Groningen is very, very worth getting. Like God tier DPM, God tier fire starting, dude. Especially if you have Conrad. If you have Conrad, you definitely should get Groningen. Honestly, if you have Conrad, Groningen is better than Friesland anyway. So like even if you had Friesland, the Groningen is kind of better because the Dutch captains have improved demo expert. So it's like super worth getting. It's a really good ship. It's pretty fun. Halford, I honestly think is like dog shit. You're a hybrid DD, which doesn't even like make logical sense because as a DD you already spot at 0 risk to yourself. So like the problem is every time you launch you give up control of your ship and spotting what you're currently spotting to go spot something else. Like if this had the airstrikes like Tromp did, it would be way better, but kind of not really worth getting at all. Like if you're gonna play a hybrid ship, pretty much all of the BBs and cruisers are better anyway. It is at least unique because it's the only DD with controllable planes, right? So it is a bit unique. Maybe we'll put it in like the bottom of C. Hayate, I sadly don't think is like really worth it at all. And it's a pretty good ship. Basically, you are a Shima with half a kilometer worth detect and 40% better guns. That's kind of the way to look at it. Because you should build for the torps on Hayate. Absolutely. You have the same torp damage output as Shima if you build for the torps. So you give up concealment to get significantly better reload on your guns. But I guess the thing is like why play it? Like if I want Shima torps, I would rather play Shima. And if I want good guns, I would rather play any ship with good guns. Hayate is kind of in the weird position of a hybrid destroyer. Hybrid in the old sense of the term, right? Like guns and torps. It's kind of in the middle of like, if you build for the guns and take gunfights, you're big and you're easy to hit, and you don't have a heal and don't have much HP. And then if you build for the torps but never get in gunfights, then you're worse than Shima. So it's just like in a really awkward spot. Like Alvaro de Bazan is a hybrid that has decent guns and decent torps, but it has that burst. The burst fire makes it incredibly unique, and the hard hitting AP makes it more unique as well. Like so for me, that's why it's an S. Is it offers something that you can't get, and also if you want to play a ship with good guns, good torps, and a reload booster, like you should honestly just play YY. Like YY is probably just a way better hybrid than Hayate, but it's not a bad ship. I don't know. Maybe we'll put it in like a low B for now, or like a high C, something like that. Iwami. I don't see any reason to get Iwami. At least it farms credits, so we'll put it above GK. Well, honestly, it's a battleship. Any battleship is inherently worth getting over a shitty cruiser. Let's be real. But like, it's not very good. It's not a terrible ship, but I don't know. It is definitely not that good. There's no interesting play style either, really. Jaeger. Now, I despise this ship. Personally, it's here for me, worth getting. But, Jaeger is a ship that takes almost no skill to play. It is a ship that is one of the most survivable DDs in the game. It's a nightmare ship to play against in a battleship. Basically, the Jaeger is the flood machine. That's what makes Jaeger like uniquely toxic against battleships. Is it has bad torpedo DPM, but if you hit the nose or the ass of any ship, you get a flood. And because of the torpedo reload on the Jaeger, it basically will and the speed of the torps, right? You're probably always hitting one torp for a flood every torp spread in Jaeger. So You send out 12 torps, you get a flood, they rep the flood. Then 40 seconds after they rep the flood, well, 60 seconds after, aka they have 40 seconds remaining on their DCP reload, you hit another flood. So Jaeger gets more permanent floods than probably any torpedo destroyer in the game. Because what typically happens when you torp something with like Gearing Shima YY is you torp them, you get one or two floods, they rep the floods, and then it takes 2 minutes for you to torp them again, and the DCP is back, right? But Jaeger's reload is so fast that it's so fast that you are way more likely to get a flood that sticks. And then the torps are so fast that you're probably always going to hit one or two anyway, right? Kearsarge is sadly an S tier worth getting. I hate to say that. It probably might be the most worth getting ship for Cole. That disgusts me. Don't get me wrong, I'm not happy about that. It doesn't please me to say that, but like the ship is so overpowered. I mean, obviously we'll get into it more in the randoms and rank discussion, but it's so overpowered. It's the best hybrid ship in the game. It has the best planes of all the hybrid ships overall. If you know what you're doing, they don't really fuck up DDs, but it's sadly like I mean I would probably get Alvaro de Bazan. Dude, I don't know. I don't know. It's definitely an S worth getting. I hate that that's true, but Kaba absolutely not. Um, if you want to AFK damage farm, there's so many ships that are better. Hull is way better. Ragnar's overall probably about as good, if not better. Kleber is better. It's sad. What's sad to me is all they would have to do to make Cabo worth playing is give it 1 kilometer better detect and a 4 second better rudder shift. That's all they'd have to do. If they did that, Cabo would immediately become semi worth playing again. The problem is it's so immaneuverable, you're just relegated to perma AFK farm. You build no concealment because there's no point. You can't push in because you eat torps anyway. Marceau, probably S tier worth getting still. It's actually still quite unique as well. There's nothing that combines this consistent DPM with the speed, the French saturation, and the very usable torps. There's really nothing that does what Marceau does, which is bursting down DDs instantly and farming large targets effectively and being a stealth torp threat and being a good team play ship with getting caps because you're super fast. Like it's still honestly kind of even unique, really. It's a fun ship. Marco Polo, bro, absolutely fucking not. Even with the buffs. Even with the buffs, dude. That ship is just so ass. It's so fucking ass. For no reason, too. Honestly, there's no reason Marco Polo is still this bad. Like, Lepanto has, like, on average, as consistent, if not more consistent, of a salvo, and it keeps the fuel smoke. Like Marco Polo absolutely could keep the fuel smoke. I don't think there's any logical reason why it doesn't get the fuel smoke. Because like basically Marco Polo trades consistency of sap damage for like the gun caliber, right? But like a Marco Polo salvo is overall about the same, if not slightly worse than a Lepanto salvo. So like to me, there's just really no reason that ship doesn't get the fuel smoke. That's what they should have done in my mind. Recently, they gave it a 2 second improved reload time on the main guns. They should have just given it the fuel smoke, dude. Moskva, I think, is still definitely an S tier worth getting ship. I think it's the most worth getting of all of the cruisers. It's good in every single game mode. It's just an excellent cruiser overall. One of the best radar cruisers in the game still. Napoli is probably also still like super worth getting. It's fun, it's strong, it's a beast in ranked. Even still, it's still very good in ranked. I'm gonna put Nustra probably in like B. I think Nustra used to be a lot more worth getting, but the healing is no longer special because we have Hull and we have Lucian. So you can experience the crazy heal. And Kaba after the buff, but those Kaba's a very different ship. But like you can experience the Nustra cockroach experience on a lot of other destroyers now that didn't exist when Nustra came out. Might be a little lower even. Having the 10 km torps is tough in this day and age. It's pretty tough to have 10-kilometer torps these days. Like, yes, you are a cockroach in Nusra Shimi, but you don't really kill anything with guns because your DPM is pretty shit. Right? You have like 2/3 the DPM of a Grozovoy. The torps are very solid, but they only go 10 km, which sucks. And then the heal is just not that special anymore. You know, in random battles, you're gonna just run into gunboats that fist you. Uh, in ranked, you just can get run at. Like that's the problem. Is you're just too much of a compromise in my mind between guns and torps. Pommern is, man, the fall off of Pommern needs to be studied. Probably more worth getting than a gear because at least it's a battleship. But like, man, dude, Pommern was my first high tier coal ship. Like 4 years ago, Pommern was my first high tier coal ship, and I loved it. And just every time they come out with a ship that's better and better and better and better. Watch the unique upgrade tier list. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Kind of long, but Salem is very worth getting. I'm probably not gonna put it in the top because this is probably the order, maybe not the order of ships. Maybe I'll like reorder it at the very end what I would personally get, but I think for most people like Marceau and Moskva and Napoli are probably like the three most worth getting ships still. And I'm probably gonna put Sherman up here as well. I don't enjoy Sherman at all, at all. I find it mind-numbingly boring to play, and if you have a shitty team, you have no ability to carry most games because I mean, it depends on the lobby, but like people can just like radar ships just fuck you up. But it's still very worth getting. It's really good. It's really really good. And a semi unique experience. I mean, there really isn't a ship with comparable damage. The only ship with like really comparable damage output is Regolo. Regolo still has less damage, but Regolo doesn't have the Hydro. Regolo doesn't like bend. I mean, it bends DDs over a barrel, but it doesn't spot them super well. But also, the big thing is Admiral Halsey is in fact diff. You can run Halsey on Sherman, and that's really the special sauce. Really, the ultimate special sauce is Halsey being run on Sherman. Tromp is also extremely worth getting. Tromp is very strong, very unique, and very fun. I put Tromp over Sherman. I actually think Tromp might even have more game impact than Sherman as well. And then obviously Conrad is probably the best on Tromp as well. Like if you have the premium Dutch captain, Tromp benefits from the bonus airstrike more than basically every other Dutch ship. Halsey elevates like the every USN premium. Yeah. Honestly, the only tier 10 USN ship that doesn't really benefit from Halsey is probably Gearing. Gearing is probably like the only high tier US, like torpedo destroyers don't really benefit from Halsey, but like all of the US ships are either god tier battleships like Montana, Vermont, Ohio, or they're crazy damage farmers like Salem, Des Moines, Sherman, Annapolis, Jacksonville. Like Halsey on US ships is just so OP. Napoli 2025. I still think Napoli is a great ship. Is it harder to play in 2025? Yeah, but it's still a great ship. It's still the only cruiser that truly comes close to having actual armor. in every way, right? Like there are armored Russian ships, but they're made out of paper if they go flat. Um, or they have a gigantic overmatchable bow like Stalingrad, right? Or they're like pseudo armored ships like GL and PVO. Napoli is like the closest thing we have to an actually truly battleship level of armor on a cruiser. Tulsa is probably reasonably worth getting, I would say. At the end of the day, it's a tier 9 cruiser, so it gets bent over a barrel by every BB in the game. But they recently gave it destroyer dispersion, so now when you raid RDDs or you shoot flat cruisers that you can Citadel, you actually do mega damage to them. Like shooting, especially shooting flat cruisers with Tulsa, AP with the destroyer dispersion is kind of wicked, dude. That is actually wicked now. Like you get 3 Citadels every front gun volley. It's kind of cracked. Um, but I mean, it's not a bad ship, but again, it's just a cruiser with negative survivability against any BB. Yoshino, Yoshino's actually surprisingly worth getting, I think. Um, it's really not a bad ship. It attracts the worst kinds of players. Yoshino players are in fact a different breed, but it's relatively worth getting. It's a super chill experience. Um, and it has kind of like the most accurate guns in that gun cal because it gets the IJN battle cruiser dispersion, which is kind of cracked. And the AP hits like a truck. This thing absolutely massacres cruisers. It farms BBs pretty okay, but it really massacres cruisers. You have fast, accurate shells with overmatch on ultralights. Very high AP pen, more AP pen than like Puerto Rico has. Really good, really good. It's kind of boring to play, so like to me, not super worth getting, but it's definitely not at all a bad ship. Not at all a bad ship. Z44. I mean, I would never get Z44. Z44 has really good torp DPM, like substantially higher torp DPM than Jaeger. The problem is, unlike Jaeger, the torps don't really hit anything. The torps are a lot worse than they hit a lot harder. So like you can potentially in Z44, you can potentially hit way more torp, like do more damage. But it doesn't have that ability to like guarantee the floods like Jaeger has. And then you get a shitty German smoke with okay guns. It's not even a terrible ship. Yeah, that's what I mentioned in that CV rework video I did, Proner. Um, it's gonna depend on what kind of spotter they give it. Like if they give it the eye in the sky built-in spotter, right? Like if they give it like Wisconsin spotter plane or something, then it's gonna get buffed, right? So it really is going to depend very heavily on what the spotting parameters of its plane becomes, right? Because like if Napoli got like a minute up, if it got a spotting aircraft with the same parameters as its current fighter, that would actually be a crazy buff because you could run eye in the sky Napoli. And remember, Napoli has the wonky dispersion curve that Petro gets. So when you buff Napoli's range, all of a sudden the medium range dispersion becomes like Elbing dispersion, right? Because it bumps the dispersion curve out farther. So like if you could run eye in the sky Napo and get a spotting plane every 90 seconds, that would actually be unironically a crazy buff to Napoli. But if it gets like a normal BB spotter up for 2 minutes, down for 4 minutes, then that would be a horrific nerf, right? So yeah, I would agree that that will actually change a lot on if Napoli's like worth getting and how good it is. Like if Napoli gets a normal BB spotting plane instead of its fighter, dude, that's a tough nerf. Like that's a tough nerf because then you like won't really ever be able to spot while fuel smoking, or you'll have to like super precision time it. That will in fact be ass. So it really depends, right? But anyway, Z44. There's nothing unique about it really, other than the speed at which the torps reload. Um, I guess New Shishimi is probably a little bit more unique. And this is something worth mentioning too, right? How worth a ship is. Assume for a second that you don't have a premium ship in this line, right? So like there's a ton of German ships in the game and none of them are going to have a captain built for Z44. So, if Z44 is your only premium German ship, then maybe you have a DD build for Z44 on it and you run. But Z44 also doesn't benefit from like any ability that Z44 doesn't really benefit from Lutyens because Lutyens pretty much only helps DDs with guns, with good guns and good secondaries, right? So that's another thing kind of worth considering as well, right? Like again, I think that's why Tromp, maybe I would put it like this, but if you've got Conrad especially, then Tromp is like, dude, Tromp is kind of a demon with Conrad because it benefits from the bonus airstrike more than any of the other ships because one, it's got the fastest airstrike reload. Two, or maybe Utrecht might have slightly faster, but it has the easiest bombs to hit because they drop the fastest. It hits the most amount of bombs per airstrike. If you drop a fat target like a Vermont or a Montana, you can literally hit 20 bombs in one drop, right? So it farms the bonus airstrike the easiest, it farms it the fastest, and it can make use of it the most. So Conrad is mega on Tromp, and Tromp is already very worth getting. Okay. Gonna reset. How good is it solo in randoms now? A gear, dog shit. Alvaro, realistically, I love it. Probably a B tier solo random ship. Uh, very strong in certain lobbies. By certain lobbies, I mean very strong in lobbies where like the enemy team has like Hollands and Shimas and they don't have crazy railgun ships, right? Like if you're in a game with high BBs and high DDs, Alvaro is like kind of a beast. But Alvaro struggles very hard in like Russian radar lobbies. Bro, I have ad block. Come on, bro. Azuma's pretty decent in randoms as well. You got Z44 is D tier to you. I mean, as a strength, yeah, it's probably going to end up there. Got Napoli's your first coal ship, but it's been a really mid experience. Being a newer player and still wanting newer or unique ships. Napoli doesn't like being. Well, that's definitely true. Well, honestly, I don't. You can play Napoli with like a 16-point captain, and it's pretty fine. You don't need superintendent or. Honestly, dude, I would say I kind of disagree. I would say Napoli does not need many captain points at all. Personally, like basically this is what you want. You don't even need. I would drop superintendent and top grade gunner is just a secondary damage buff, but like you can absolutely play Napoli with just these skills. What is that? One, two, or skip when it like this is again a skill you don't need. The turrets turn like lightning. You don't need grease the gears. You run gun feeder, any of the 2-point skills. You definitely want pack a punch and AR, and you definitely want concealment. But that's 13 points. Honestly, you can play Napo with 13 points, and the ship is pretty okay. These are just like candy on top, right? Like superintendent is going to help you in longer games. Top grade gunners basically a 10% buff to your secondary DPM. And then this is just giving you the smoke back slightly faster, but like not necessary skills. Some people play with outnumbered instead. Like Napoli does not need many skills to be good, in my opinion. It's already very good. You're just making the ship like maybe 10% better with a full captain. Anyway, Azuma is pretty solid in tier 9 randoms. It's got great guns. It's got an improved heal, so when you get bent over by BBs, you can heal a bit back faster. Um, yeah, pretty good. Pretty good ship overall. Great AP. When it comes to AFK kiting cruisers without utility, Azuma is probably above average. Black and randoms is a very tough ship. Black and randoms is honestly pretty bad, I would say. The radar doesn't really last long enough for it to become utility radar, unlike Chung Mu, which is a tier 9 comparison ship. And then you don't have the fast cycling time of like a Cat Sonus. And honestly, long range Hydro is kind of better in a lot of games than Black Radar. The Torps on Black don't really hit anyone that hasn't just gotten out of the lobotomy chair. It's just kind of a tough ship to impact the game in. Can't really farm at range because of American shell arcs. It's a lot better in ranked. We'll get to that, but Brisbane in randoms played solo. It's probably like a B tier ship. It has really good intel gathering utility. The problem with Brisbane compared to Minotaur is in random battles, you'd rather just have the DPM on Minnow, right? In random battles, there's always some moron flat to you in Minnow. The DDs have no survivability instincts or awareness. So in random battles, it's a lot easier to make use of Minnow's radar and actually burst people down. But Brisbane's very solid. Like, you've got decent DPM, you've got amazing torps. That's kind of like the main reason you play it over Minotaur is the torps, which are like solid in randoms. Like, it's a solid cruiser in randoms. It's not bad. Carnot is just ass. I would probably rather play a gear in randoms than Carnot. Overall, yeah, I'd probably rather play a gear. GK definitely is a D tier ship, but obviously better than playing a cruiser in randoms. GK is definitely one of the very worst BBs in tier 10. Is there a BB that's worse than GK in tier 10? Like, what would be a contender for a worse than GK ship in tier 10? I honestly cannot think of a single one. Like, you could play Louisiana and get better guns on a better hull. Okay, that's not fair. The GK hull is actually not that bad. If you go flat, you can't get overpen, so people think it's bad. But, like, you're immune to almost all cruiser HE on 80% of your surface area, which is nice. You're immune to Colombo Sap on 80% of your hull, which is nice. The hull on GK is not that bad. It's miserable to play, though, 100%. It is miserable to play. I would say Repub is better. Telerium. I think Repub is probably the second worst BB in tier 10 for randoms. But at least Repub is a bit more fun. Because you've got like the silly, goofy reload time and you do have overmatch. So like at least Republic guns are decent, right? Like Repub hull is twice as bad as GK hull for sure. But at least the guns are a relatively unique experience. Railguns, super fast reload. The closest you can get to Repub guns is range mod Preußen, but then you give up a bit of reload, right? Groningen solo and Groningen in randoms is probably like an A. Groningen is very strong in randoms. Because in randoms there's enough chaos going on that you actually get to farm. You know? Usually you actually get to farm. And if you know what you're doing in Groningen, you basically bring like Sherman DPM into tier 9. Now, that DPM is harder to utilize because the floaty ass shells. The superstructure kills the enjoyment. Yeah, but I mean, I say this every time people complain about German superstructure, right? So we're just going to retread old territory. But like, this is Montana's superstructure, right? Okay. We're looking at it. We've got it in our mind. This is Wisconsin's superstructure. Okay. Mental screenshot. This is Preußen and GK's. It's not that fucking big by BB standards. It just isn't. Like, if you're going to complain about GK superstructure, you've got to complain about Montana superstructure. You've got to complain about Wisconsin, Iowa, And all these other superstructures, right? Like, you honestly have to complain about Schlieffen, Casemate, and superstructure. You have to complain about a lot of superstructures. Oh, how about Bourgogne, bro? How about Bourgogne and Repub? Huh? How the fuck about it? Let's go back to Preußen. Literally worse. Like, the Frenchies have the worst superstructure in the game. And then GK, Preußen, Montana are kind of tied. It basically goes Bourgogne, Repub are the worst. Then you've got like Rhode Island and Wisconsin because they have the Iowa superstructure, which is horrific. And then you have like Monty, GK, Preußen call kind of tied. Mech is bad too. But again, it's not like noticeably worse than most. Right? Like, yeah, it's a liability, but like that's Mecklenburg. That's Montana. Like Montana has it's 80% is worse if, like you can't complain about one without complaining about the rest. So like, yes, I agree that GK superstructure is big and you eat a lot of damage in it. That's fact check true, right? Compared to like Colombo though. Do people bitch about Colombo superstructure? They don't. Why? Because it's a hive mind, right? They don't bitch about it because we just have a hive mind. Like, my point is a lot of these ships have a giant superstructure. A lot of them. And some of the ones that don't have quite as big of a superstructure, like Colombo, this is maybe marginally smaller than, like... Actually, I don't even know if it really is smaller than, like, GK. No, it's, like, the same size. This is my point, right? There's probably, like, 10 to 12 ships in Tier 10 that have as big, if not bigger, of a superstructure than GK Preußen, but those ships don't get the HE immune deck and the HE and SAP immune belt, right? So, like, if you know what you're doing and you're angled in a GK, it's exceptionally tanky. Much more tanky than, like, Montana, but people just jerk their cocks over German superstructure. Halford's strength in random battles... Maybe like a strong C. Something like that. Maybe like a decent C. There are other things to... Well, and that's my next point, Telerium, is that that's kind of the only thing to bitch about the GK hull. Like, the GK hull is god tier except for the superstructure, right? Like, if you could have Kremlin superstructure on GK's hull, it would literally be a tankier ship. Like, look at how little of this ship can be penned by 32 mil pen. Or anything under 50. Like, it's just the superstructure, a non-existent amount of upper bow, and a tiny, tiny bit of ass in upper bow. Like, the hull on GK is one of the best hulls, maybe the best hull in the game, aside from the superstructure. Like, if this thing had, I mean, there's Conch superstructure too. It's pretty big, right? This is my point. If GK had like a Yamato or a Kremlin superstructure, it'd be one of the tankiest boats in the fucking game. I mean, like, Yamato perfectly bow in is one of the tankiest boats in the game. And GK has an improved, lower hull over Yamato by a lot, right? Hayate's strength and randomness is probably like an okay B tier ship. Because you are a Shimakaze level torp threat, but you can defend yourself with guns. Like, if you get caught by a gunboat, the Hayate's not winning the fight, even with a gun build, but you at least do pump some damage back. Awami and random is like, what, maybe a C? I mean, it's a battleship, so it's always going to have more game impact than other classes, but probably like a C. Jaeger and randoms is probably like a solid B tier ship. Jaeger's biggest problem, Jaeger is very hard to kill because it's tiny and has a heal and it's decently fast. But Jaeger's biggest problem is if any gunboat that is as fast as you wants you dead and you don't have support, you just are dead. You cannot smoke and run away. You cannot hit enough torps to defend yourself from like if a Marceau is running at you in your Jaeger, you are dead. 1,000 out of 1,000 times, you are dead. If you're in something like a Shima, you can shit out 15 torps and one torp can change the outcome of the fight. Whereas you're trying to torp a Marceau and a Jaeger, you have to hit like 7 torps to win that fight, right? So that's like its biggest problem. But if you're alone on a flank and there's no DD screening for you against you, then it's pretty amazing. Kearsarge is absolutely an S tier ship in random battles. In tier 9, you are one of the best battleships in tier 9 in the entire video game. Oh, and then you also get planes. That's pretty cool, right? You're one of the best BBs in the game and you get planes. Pretty fucking neat. Pretty fucking neat, to be sure. You have some of the best guns of all BBs in tier 9. You're one of the best HE spammers in all of tier 9. You're actually like disgustingly tanky compared to other tier 9 BBs. Because if you play at anything approaching medium and long range, you basically are immune to shells coming in from above. American. Right? You got a giant tumor. So at close range, you've got just the biggest superstructure in the entire video game, right? People just shoot this, you lose a ton of HP. A ton of HP. But how about Kearsarge at, say, 15, or say, let's go like 18 kilometers. Most shells are coming in at about a 15-degree angle. All of a sudden, there's not that much to hit on this ship. All of a sudden, once you open up the range, there's not that much to hit when you go bowing in on this ship. And the lower hull is like extremely, extremely good. So the Kearsarge is kind of like bizarrely tanky. What I would do personally is this deck being a 30mm plate is a crime against fucking humanity. This thing absolutely should have like a 32mm flight deck. Then it could get overmatched. Then it could get farmed by heavy cruisers. Like, especially heavy cruisers, dude. Like, trying to farm this thing when it's bow in like a Des Moines or a Zhao or something like that is actually incredibly horrific. Incredibly horrific. Because then your shells are coming in like this, right? At like a 20+ degree angle at medium range. And there's nothing to hit. When this thing is bow in, you're aiming at a target this big where you can plunge and hit it, right? So like, the ship is horrifically tanky. And it has a ton of HP pool. With the flag, 89,000. Some of the highest HP in tier 9. Some of the best guns in tier 9. Oh, and it gets planes. Pretty fucking neat. Pretty neato burrito game design, to be sure. Marv Boy 89. How's it going, man? How was the stream? Thanks for the raid. Appreciate that. Kaba strength in randoms is pretty shit. I mean, it is an AFK farmer in the purest sense. Remember we talked about how like 3 out of 10 games you can't win no matter what you do. 3 out of 10 games you can't lose no matter what you do. And then your skill contributes to the middle part of that, like the 4 out of 10 games. Kaba, it's like your skill contributes even less because if your team is a little bit worse than the red team, then like you just don't have any game impact. You're never going to kill a destroyer who has not just taken, the bib off from the lobotomy chair. Like, those are the only DD players you kill. There's ships that AFK farm just honestly, like, objectively better. Like, I would say Ragnar and Hull are just literally better at permanent AFK farming, but they can also do other things. It's pretty shit. I mean, it farms damage, right? Like, I said this about Elbing, that what a lot of people do is they say, oh, you brought a cruiser in a DD slot, so you deprived your team of a DD. That's a troll. I actually somewhat look at it the opposite way, which is you brought a cruiser that doesn't die, and they brought a DD that probably rushed the cap and killed itself. Marceau is definitely S tier strength in randoms. Incredibly powerful in randoms. One of the strongest DDs in the game, probably still in random battles. Amazing at farming, amazing at fighting destroyers, amazing at flying around the map and collecting caps. Good AA, like unironically decent anti-air. It's incredibly hard to kill. It farms large targets very effectively if you have hands. Really good. Marco Polo as a tier 9 battleship in randoms is pretty bad. But honestly, it might be better than Awami. It might be like barely better than Awami in tier 9. Because at least having high caliber sap. Okay, at the end of the day, I think Marco Polo is dog shit. But but you do have the ability to sap Citadel ultralight cruisers. So even though the ship is ass, you might be in a tier 10 lobby, and like if a Svea, a Genan, an Austin, a Smolensk, a Colbert, if one of these ships makes one mistake, you have the ability to just like randomly detonate them. And that's a lot. That's potentially a bit of game impact, right? So like just the fact that you have high cal sap does mean you can do some things that are make you relevant. So it's definitely above a ship like Awami. Moskva's probably S tier in random still, right? I mean, what radar cruiser is better in randoms than Moskva? You could probably make the case that Des Moines is better if you really know what you're doing, because Des Moines pumps out almost double the damage with its guns that Moskva does. But the problem with Des Moines is if there's a Bungo, a Vermont, an Ohio, right? A Yamato. If any battleship that overmatches 30 wants to kill you, you're just fucking dead. There's no living that. Like, Moskva, yes, I mean, will get point and clicked by something like a Vermont for 15 to 20k, but that still means Vermont needs to shoot it like 4 or 5 times, right? Whereas Des Moines like randomly explodes. So I would say of the radar cruisers, you have probably the best utility in the entire game, right? Moskva and Nevsky probably have on paper the best utility, 40-second 12 km radar, right? And a hydro. But Moskva can actually like use the radar aggressively, and Nevsky cannot. Moskva is just an incredibly good ship still. Napoli in random battles is probably not as good. I don't even really know if it would be like an A tier ship. You know, S tier is like there's almost nothing in its class that's better, right? It's one of like the top 5 ships in its class in its tier. And then A would be something like it's pretty much always strong if you're a decent player. B would be like potentially strong, right? C would be like pretty shit, but maybe you can cope. And then D would be like, why would you ever voluntarily play it, kind of a deal. Maybe like the top of the pack in B. I mean, Napoli's still good if you know what you're doing. It's still good if you know what you're doing, but like, I don't know. There are just certain lobbies where the Napoli like doesn't do anything. I think it's the ultimate issue that it has is there are a lot of lobbies, especially these days, where you're not really doing anything in Napoli. Like if you don't get to fuel smoke in people's faces, then you're in a pretty bad cruiser. Most players in Napoli just death rush. Yeah, I mean, because the thing is, like, what you typically want to do in Napoli is start the game main gun focused, open water. You want to play it kind of like a battleship at medium range, and then, like, look for an opportunity to push in. But, like, let's say you're playing against, like, all, like, Des Moines, right? Like, Napoli doesn't do anything against the Des Moines. A Des Moines that sits bow in, like, your secondaries don't damage it. Des Moines has 4 times your DPM, right? Uh, you just, unless you get to pull off YOLO rushes in Napoli, you're just not in a very good ship, you know? And again, in random battles, like, what you want in random battles is you want to be able to farm a ton of damage and have good game impact and not die easily. Napoli has the not dying part down pat. I mean, it's one of the hardest cruisers to kill. But I mean, unfortunately, like, if people don't sit in your secondary range like morons, you don't really accomplish much. It's very fun. New Strashimi in randoms in tier not, excuse me, in tier 9. Not super good. Honestly, not super good to me. The like cockroach healing is harder to make use of in randoms than it is in ranked. The torp range is frankly just not enough in a lot of lobbies. The guns don't really kill anything. Maybe it's like a bad B tier ship. Pommern is not only D tier, but actually I'm going to put it below the cruisers. I would say that Aguirre and Carnot are better in randoms than Palmer. Oh, Palmer is just one of the worst tier 9 BBs in the game. Truly, it's so bad. Should have gotten Marceau. Only issue is you have 0 hands. If you don't have hands, do not play Marceau. You definitely do not want to play Marceau if you don't have hands. Because if you don't have hand, like if you can't if you can't aim with floaty shells in Marceau, it's terrible. I mean, it is terrible. Like the only reason why I think Marceau is better than Kleb is if you have hands, you have more DPM. Salem is probably A tier for me in randoms. Salem just pumps out mad damage. It pumps out mad amounts of damage with a Lighthouse build, which, yes, is the way you should play Salem. The only reason to play the Salem is with a full DPM Lighthouse build. That's the only reason to play it. It's incredibly fun. It has pretty much the highest like effective DPM in the game. You get a super heal, and please, please, please do not listen to the clowns on Reddit that are like, Salem super heal is actually really bad because when you take 4 citadels, you can't use the super heal anymore. It's like, yeah, bro, like, Jesus fucking Christ, okay. I mean, even if you take citadels, the Salem heal is still like way better. Like, 1 Salem heal is worth 3 Des Moines heals, right? So, like, you don't have to run Superintendent on Salem, so you gain 3 captain points to build into things that are useful to have. Also, I have never to this day, okay, someone correct me if I'm wrong, correct me if you also know someone who makes content for this game that actually looks at ships they review. I have never seen anyone address this with Salem. Okay? I have never to this day seen a single person other than myself point this out. Salem has the best cruiser DCP in the game. It used to be the best. It is now offset by is it Tianjin? I think Tianjin offset it. Tianjin now has the best cruiser DCP in the game, but before Tianjin came out, the Salem had the best cruiser DCP in the game. It's one of the only cruisers in the fucking game that gets an improved cooldown on its damage control. The only ship with a better cooldown is the Sevastopol. Sevastopol has a 30-second DCP cooldown. But Sevastopol has 3 DCPs base, or 4. Like, Sevastopol has very few charges. So, not only does Salem have the super heal to heal the fire and damage, but it's not just that you need it, it's that on Salem, you can afford to just insta-put out fires because the DCP is back super fast. An amazing asset that this ship has that I just never see anyone discuss. I've never seen anyone on the subreddit, on YouTube, on Twitch, point out that Salem, well, at the time, right, because Tianjin now does have a better DCP, but a year ago, from whenever Salem came out till when Tianjin came out, it had the best cruiser DCP in the game by a factor of like 1.5x, and no one talks about it. So the Salem is, again, what the smooth brains on Reddit will tell you is that you get smashed by a BB and you can't heal. That's just complete fucking bullshit. Because at the end of the day, you still have a 33% heal. And what it does is it allows you to survive 3 salvos in a situation where Des Moines would never live to, right? Like, just, a quick thought experiment, right? To kind of, do I have survivability? Yeah, I have survivability. Do I have the flag? Okay. So you have 57,000 hit points, right? So let's say Ohio comes around the corner and 25Ks you, and one of those shells is a Citadel, okay? You lose 25k and 1 is a Citadel. Well, you're going to heal a third of the Citadel and half of the pen damage, right? So of that 25k, roughly 5k of the pen is healable, roughly 5k of the Citadel is healable. So that's 10k, right? So if you're in a Des Moines, what do? You lose 25k and you instantly hit your heal. The heal brings you back up to, you now have permanently lost 20,000 HP. And now you're done. Right? You're fucking done. The heal is over. You're up to, you healed 10 of the 25k. You're back up to about 42,000 HP, and now you're done healing. The Ohio 25Ks you. You're down to 17. He kills you. You're fucking dead. What do you do in Asylum? You tank the first hit and you don't heal. You tank the second hit and you don't heal. You then wait a few seconds and start healing. And as you take the third hit, you're still fucking healing. And even if you're getting Citadel'd every salvo for 25K, you're still, after 3 salvos of this hypothetical situation, you're still going to be half HP when the Des Moines is going to be fucking dead, right? So the idea that Salem does not tank because it can take Citadel damage is just like ridiculous. There's so many situations where Salem can walk on a battleship that Des Moines would die to solely because Salem has that heal. So do not believe people. And also the extra healing, right? We always talk about this with Lighthouse Cruisers. If you're playing a Lighthouse Cruiser, in order for a cruiser to actually be viable, okay? Obviously, any cruiser can be played Lighthouse if you're good. But in order for a cruiser to like really be a good candidate for Lighthouse build, you need some kind of improved survivability. That can be Venezia with its crazy smokes with ledge mod. That could be Henry with its crazy speed juking, right? That can be Goliath with its crazy heal. Or that can be Salem with its crazy heal. Des Moines Lighthouse is fun, but you have no improved survivability. So you just kind of get shit on, right? Whereas Salem Lighthouse actually works because of the heal and the DCP. It actually works. Anyway, our little mini rant is over. Sherman, Strength, and Random is probably an A. Probably an A. Probably slightly above Groningen. I mean, yes, Groningen tier for tier is probably every bit as good as Sherman, but Sherman does get the torps. Sherman does get the torps, and Sherman gets the sap. It's probably better. Sherman's very good in randoms. Yes, you need a bit of a team. Like with Groningen, you need a bit of a team. But it's still really, I mean, it's just really good. It pumps out crazy amounts of damage. You can run full conceal. Excuse me. You can run full conceal Sherman, which you probably should. And you're like the kind of the ultimate deterrent style gunboat. Like, yeah, you don't really outspot things. I'm dying. I have like something stuck in my throat. You don't really outspot things, but like what can open up on you? Like what destroyer can voluntarily start the fight against Sherman and not get shit on? This is going back to the research bureau ships. Probably like Druid is one of the only ones. Because Druid is a very unique hard counter to a lot of gunboats like Sherman. But aside from that, like Sherman shits on the usual suspects, right? Shits on Ragnar, really shits on Marceau because you have more DPM than Marceau, but railguns and Marceau does not. So unless Marceau keeps pushing deeper into Sherman, it starts to like get out traded 2-3 to 1 once the range opens up a bit, right? Sherman farms, especially cruisers, heavy and light cruisers like mad. Like there's a lot of light cruisers in the game that can't even commit on Sherman. If you watch my Utrecht review, my second game in my Utrecht review, I ran around the rock on Sherman with all of my buffs going, so I was on like 350k HEDPM in Utrecht, and like the guy basically traded me. Like I did the same damage to a Sherman that he did to my Utrecht, and I had 350k HEDPM rolling. Like the ship is a beast. It's very hard to rush this thing in a cruiser. Obviously, BBs can run it over, but if you're in a cruiser with 30 mil or 32 mil side plating or worse, it's tough, man, because this thing just has so much goddamn DPM. Really good. Tromp is another easy A tier, and honestly, to me, a bit better than Sherman. It's more versatile, and it doesn't need as much of a team. Because what kind of happens in Sherman is you'll lose a bunch of HP. If you actually play aggressive, you'll lose some HP. And you'll kind of get to a situation where you can't really afford to open water farm. And then you need to smoke farm. And then smoke farming inherently means you have to have a team that's not moronic to spot enemy ships that you are smoke farming. Whereas Tromp, Tromp is basically better than torp boats. I mean, if you really think about it, like, every 40 seconds, Tromp lights a fire on your BB from stealth. And every 70 seconds, Tromp can send 6 15k damage torps at you. Like, Tromp is just really good, man. It's really fucking good. It's really fucking good in a lot of situations against a lot of ships. Against battleships, it farms crazy damage with airstrikes, and it farms pretty good. It's a decent torp threat against BBs, and it's a crazy airstrike threat against BBs. Against cruisers, it's a crazy airstrike threat, not so much a torp threat, but also you have Ragnar shells, so you pen most heavy cruisers everywhere with mega fire starting. The synergy between Tromp and the premium captain is amazing. And you actually can build Tromp and Groningen the same captain spec. The only real thing that's going to change is if you build a captain for Groningen, you're not really going to make use of improved demo expert on Tromp. And if you build a captain for Tromp, you're not really going to make use of the airstrike mod or airstrike skill on Groningen. But other than that, like the captains have 90% efficiency crossover. So pretty good there. Tromp is a mega ship, dude. Tromp is really fucking good. Tulsa as a tier 9 cruiser in random battles. How good is Tulsa? Probably like a B. Probably in its tier 4 cruisers, probably like a B. With the dispersion buff, it kind of, I think, edged past the Buffalo. What Wargaming did is they came out with Tulsa, which was a little bit better than Buffalo, excuse me. But then they buffed Buffalo DPM, which then made Buffalo slightly better than Tulsa. But now I would argue with the Destroyer dispersion, Tulsa is probably a bit better than Buffalo. You got your Tromp from the Dutch Cruisers event, first roll. Hell yeah, dude. I mean, at the end of the day, like, it is a cruiser that 90% of BBs it fights overmatches it, but I don't know, dude. I don't like Tulsa. But I'm trying to like be more objective. Like I know a lot of people I don't like it at all. Because I just despise playing tier 9 cruisers without armor. Like I just hate it. I honestly hate it. But it's probably like 4 cruisers in its tier pretty good. If we're trying to be more objective, it's probably pretty good. Yoshino as a tier 10 cruiser randoms is probably like a decent C tier boat. The problem with Yoshino is like, like I said, it was moderately worth getting because it's a chill experience. You've got great AP, great HE. The thing with Yoshino is like, why would I? And this is kind of unfair because I'm comparing ships not in the class of cruisers, but like, why would I ever play Yoshino when I have Mecklenburg? You love Tulsa, but it's bad. No way your average player performs in it. Yeah, but I would say the same, Anti-Dad, about any utility cruiser without armor, right? Like, so here's the question. In Tier 9, are you going to do better in Buffalo or Tulsa? I would argue you're going to do better in Tulsa because you're not going to greed for your back guns, right? Like, I mean, you're not wrong, but what you're describing is just the Tier 9 cruiser experience overall. Like, Tier 9 cruisers are just horrific by default because they all of a sudden have to fight BBs that all overmatch them, that all have crazy dispersion and or shell count. Yoshino is slept on. AP slap. Yeah, the AP absolutely slaps. Like Citadeling Yamatos at 10 km, they're not ready for it. I can tell you that. BB players especially are not used to the Yoshino with AP loaded. Yoshino is also like an actual nightmare fuel boat if you're in an ultralight. If you're in like Minotaur, dude, a Yoshino player who can aim and loads AP is actual nightmare fuel in an ultralight cruiser. Because the shells are fast with great dispersion and high damage. Like, you just get clicked. Z44 is a pure torpedo boat. You know what? I can't. There we go. I actually can't abide looking at Jaeger in B tier. Yeah, the AP on Yoshino is like mega. Like truly, truly mega. Like just a quick comparison. Yoshino, AP. Look at that pen, dude. Look at that pen at 10. Like 10 km, you start citadeling a lot of battleships in Yoshino. You can get some like luck citadels on some at longer range, But overall, it's about 10 km where you start citadeling them. But like that's Puerto Rico, right? Less pen, but the big thing is like it stays high. I mean, like you citadel every cruiser in the game basically at max range with the spotter plane up in Yoshino. But the big difference is like the flight time, right? Like the flight time on the shells is really fucking good. Um, again, even at 10 km, like noticeably faster flight time and impact angle. Remember, impact angle is of course effective pen, right? The dispersion is like really good, right? I mean, look at this, dude. Look at this dispersion. Fuck the Puerto Rico, dude. This ship is actual dog. Puerto Rico is dog ass, but like, look at the dispersion, dude. And then so compare it to like the ships in the type, right? We've got like Marseille, we've got Stalingrad, we've got what Puerto Rico, and then you compare the dispersion. Like, look at this vertical dispersion, bro. Like, even factoring in Stalingrad's better Sigma, Yoshino is basically like more accurate than Stalingrad. Stalingrad will have the occasional salvo that beats a Yoshino salvo, but like overall, the dispersion is amazing. The dispersion is amazing. It's got the fastest reload, right? It's got the fastest reload of all of these ships with great dispersion. Like the torps are good for zoning. Like it really is not a bad ship at all. The reason why Yoshino has a reputation as a bad ship is because it attracts the Yoshino player TM, you might say. Yeah, the hull is not as bad as I mean, like it's bad, but it's limited bad. It's bad light, I guess you would say, right? Like the nose is 25 with no icebreaker, which is horrific, but you are 30, so like you're basically a Zhao, right? You're basically a gigantic Zhao. But you do get a little bit of troll armor in the Yoshino. To be fair, not a lot, but you do get a little bit of troll armor because the turtleback on the Citadel is, well, it's not really a turtleback, just the top slope. There's not really anything that can overmatch or Citadel it. So like what people do is they'll look at armor viewer and they'll be like, whoa, gigantic Citadel, but not really. This part is the actual Citadel because there's not really like any ship. The only thing that's citadeling the upper part of your Citadel is like improved pen with plunging fire ships, right? And it's got like just a decent amount of armor, right? It's 180 plus 30 and it's spaced. So this does defeat a lot of cruiser AP at medium and long range. Um, it's just not that bad, right? I mean, it's not like on a great ship, but it's really just not that bad. But it's just the AP. Like the AP is really good. The HE is really good. You farm BBs very well. You really do like nuke broadside cruisers. Azuma is more fun at its tier. Yeah, I mean Azuma kind of has like almost as good of guns with a better heal and just a slightly worse hull. You do lose the torps, but like in most games, Yoshino torps don't hit anything. I did have a game on Ocean and Yoshino where I hit like 15 torpedoes across the map. That was pretty funny. But that doesn't usually happen, right? But I mean, it's just like not bad. When it comes to, kiting no utility cruisers, it's not that bad. You run reload mod because the range is crazy. You get like a 16-second reload on basically Battleship HE. I mean, the HE is like basically Battleship HE, right? Like the HE Alpha is crazy. Um, right? 5100, like that is basically 406 cal BBHE. Ships like Montana, have like 5500 ish. This is the same HE alpha as like GK. But yeah, 16.3-second reload on basically Battleship HE against cruisers. Arguably, you're more consistent against flat cruisers than most BBs. No, Yoshino does not get an improved heal. Pucks. Sadly, it does not get an improved heal. It's an 80-second cooldown heal. We can compare those real quick if you want. Yoshino and Azuma. If you look at it gets the 33 sit repair, which isn't super unique, but it's okay. But the big thing is no. The Azuma gets a 40-second heal, and Yoshino only gets 80-second. So like tier for tier, Azuma is probably like a bit better. Um, the difference though with Azuma is that it can't bounce like any shells really because it's covered in 27. But it does get the improved heal, and the guns are almost the exact same. So tier for tier, Azuma might be honestly like slightly better. Well, yeah. Oh, there you go. I actually put it above. Uh, okay, we're probably gonna put it like maybe up here or something like that. Are these ships better in their class in their tier than Yoshino? Probably not, huh? Yoshino's just really not that bad. It's just that you're so used to how the average player plays Yoshino, which is perma HE spam in the back of the map. Like, you want to play Yoshino at close range, dude. Like, also the concealment is, like, really fucking good. Like, 11-9. Like, this ship is crazy toxic against cruisers. Like, it is crazy toxic against cruiser players. Okay. All right. Let's do ranked real quick. This is ranked viability in its tier. Then why is everyone turbo shit in it? Because think about this, Fobble. You get over 20-kilometer range, right? You get over 20-kilometer range, and you get cracked HE. So it appeals to the kind of player who wants to spam HE at 20 kilometers. If you, let's say you want to spam high explosive ammo at 20 km, this is kind of one of the best ships in the game to do that, right? I mean, like, it is. I mean, it's better than, think of the BBs that, okay, again, and we're talking about long range, right? Because there are BBs like Rhode Island that are better at HE spamming, but mostly if you get closer, right, where you hit more shells. So you have fast shells with great dispersion and high HE alpha. So of all the ships in World of Warships that can spam high explosive ammo at 20 plus kilometers, it's kind of the best one, really. Because every 16 seconds, you sling 9 100 damage HE shells at somebody. Like, these are battleship HE salvos, right? Like, an HE salvo from Yoshino is going to hit about as hard as a Montana HE salvo. But the reload's twice as good. So, yeah, if all you want to do is AFK HE spam at super long range, I would argue there's really no contender that the Yoshino does it the best. Like, I would argue that Yoshino is the best HE spammer beyond 20 km, probably in the game. Really good. I mean, so yeah, it appeals to those kind of players. Yeah, you send a BB salvo worth of HE with half the reload of BBs. Like, the HE spam on this thing is demonic. Don't get me wrong. How good is it in ranked? A gear is really bad in ranked. The only thing it even kind of has going for it is the torps, and they always perma break. It's dog. Well, that's maybe not. You know, at least it has some torps. It doesn't kill any BB in the game. It gets farmed by every cruiser in the game. It's pretty dog shit, but Alvaro's pretty bad in tier 10 ranked. Maybe like a strong C. I love it, but it's probably like a strong C. Azuma in ranked is definitely just straight up griefing your team. At least a gear has some armor and torps to push. And then black is pretty good. Black is pretty good. But is it an A? It's definitely not an S tier DD. There's a lot of ships in tier 9 rank that just shit on the black. The radar is too short to kill anything. The torps don't deter you from getting rushed. The radar doesn't reload fast enough to like contest the cap, because once the radar ends, then there's the DDs can play around it. Like, Katsonis is better, Groningen's better, Kitakaze is better. It's probably like a strong B or like an A. It's probably like halfway in between. I think it's probably its biggest weakness is the torps don't hit anything. They're just too slow. And your DPM's not good enough to kill anything. So like if you run into a real gunboat in the black, you just die. And even if you smoke up in radar, like if you run into a Kitakaze in black, it outtrades you like 3-1 in the initial engagement, and then you smoke and radar it and do like 5k damage while it runs away. But you still get you get just shit on by any real gunboat. Any BB can run you over for free because your torps aren't really a threat. Maybe we'll put it like in the leader of the pack for DDs and B. Brisbane in ranked is very good. Very, very good. Really, really good in ranked. And clan battles. Maybe we can just do a little bit of clan battle discussion. Brisbane's an amazing ship in clan battles as well. It's just really, really good in ranked because of the combination of the torps and the fires. And the radar duration means you can like zero risk radar caps constantly. I think Brisbane is one of the better cruisers in ranked, unironically. It's really good. Carnot, again, would be basically griefing your team, although I'll actually put it above Azuma, because Carnot can push. Carnot has a bit of side plating armor for, like, in Tier 9 ranked. The armor's okay in Tier 9 ranked. And you can actually, you're really fast. The AP has a lot of pen. So you can at least push in the Carnot. GK is not, I don't think a D tier in ranked. I don't think a D tier. I think it's like a C. Like Republic is worse in ranked, Bungo is worse in ranked, Slava is worse in ranked. There's actually quite a number of BBs that are noticeably less good in ranked than GK. It goes up a tier when you play ranked, I think. It's still like not good, and Pricing is overall better, but like if you watch my research bureau in my unique upgrade video, I talked about the ranked GK build TM. You can have a fun time in GK. You can have a silly goofy time in ranked in the GK with a certain build. Groningen's probably like an A in ranked. I don't know, dude. The Los Andes though, Groningen would have been an A 1 year ago, but the problem is there is a Los Andes in every single. I was looking at the server stats for ranked the other day, and there is actually, on average in North America, 1 Los Andes per team per game. And Groningen does literally nothing against the Los Andes. It has a non-existent superstructure. It's immune to fire damage because of its heal and DCP. It just runs you over for free. Not having torps in ranked is a crazy grief. It didn't used to be a crazy grief, but it really is now with Los Andes. But I do think it's probably better than black. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. Is it better than black? Black at least gets torps. You know? It does get torps. Like, a BB can't rush it at 0.1 kilometer and not hit a torp, right? But Groningen is good. Man, these ships would have been way higher up pre-Los Andes. Los Andes, to me, is like totally fucked the ranked power level. We'll probably revisit that. Halford in Tier 9 ranked is pretty terrible. Pretty terrible. A hybrid DD is probably the worst class to have a hybrid on, because you give up control of a ship that requires the most control. You give up the most amount of theoretical damage because you have the fastest reload of any ship type. It doesn't kill anything with guns. The torps are pretty meh. Maybe it's like a C. Maybe we'll put it in like C. Hayate in Tier 10 ranked. Hayate in Tier 10 ranked is probably not that bad. It's not a D. Maybe it's again like another decent C tier ship. Because you do have the torp threat of Shima, but actually in ranked, Hayate is superior in torpedo threat to Shima. Because Hayate in shorter duration games actually has more torp DPM than Shima. It's only once the game progresses beyond a certain minute mark that Shima has better torp output than Hayate. And in ranked, getting focused is less of a problem, so the lack of concealment is less of an issue in ranked than it is in randoms. Awami is dog shit in tier 9 ranked. I can't think of like one BB that dies to this thing. Thoughts on Kassard? I think Kassard is good, but I hate playing it. I think Kassard is good, but I hate playing it. Because it's like, I already hate playing torpedo focused boats, and Kassard, my biggest issue with Kassard is anyone with a brain never hits your torps. Because torping people in Kassard is the equivalent of voluntarily sending single racks at people. Like, imagine you're in a gearing and you're like, let me send one set of torps and then wait 10 seconds and then send one more set of torps. Like, is that a winning strategy to torping people? Not really, right? But it's like, it's good. Like, it has good guns and good torps. I just don't enjoy it at all. I kind of hate it. I'm trying to think of like what BB doesn't kill Awami for free. What BB doesn't kill this for free? How many captain points are needed for Lighthouse Ven to function? A lot. Lighthouse cruisers are the most point-starved cruisers. Because you need the heavy HE and you need top-grade gunner. In tier 9, what battleship would I feel scared of Awami in? Yeah, literally nothing. But it's a BB def, top of D tier. Jaeger in tier 9 ranked. Honestly, dude, please play this if you're going to be on the red team. When I am in tier 9 ranked and I see a Jaeger, all I think is, oh, we're in a 6v5 game. Great. We're in a 6v5 game. Amazing. Because the thing is, in a Lighthouse Cruiser, you are going to take, you know, your basic build is like, because you need heavy sap, you know, like on Lighthouse Ven, for example, you need heavy sap and top grade gunner, or there's no real point in the build. So yeah, your basic build goes from, you know, most cruisers have a basic build of 13 points, but Lighthouse cruisers have a basic build of 16 points. I mean, this ship is the most non-issue ship I ever see in ranked. Like, there's no DD that this bothers me to play against. There's, like, I don't care what ship I'm in. Like, this ship is the opposite of a threat. Like I said, in randoms, Jaeger's not a bad ship. But, like, in ranked, like, it doesn't deter anything. It has a, you know, a real world. If you hit all 12 torps on a BB and Jaeger, you do like 40k damage. That's all 12, right? And depends on the BB. Pretty garbage. I mean, what DD in tier 9, like Yugamo, like TRB Yugamo is way better than Jaeger in ranked. Why would you play it in randoms? Because it's a flood demon. That's like it's a 1 value. Jaeger is a flood machine because of the reload and the fact that you always hit multiple torps. Jaeger is like the one DD in the game that permafloods people like mad. Prep for strike. Yeah, dude, prep for strike. And bro, imagine playing what BBs have DFAA and torp protection in tier 9. But like imagine prep for strike when you're getting torped by Jaeger. Z46 is good, Black is good, Groningen's good, Kita's good, Chungmu is good, Ketsonis is good. Like, Jaeger is a pure torp boat without smoke. Yeah, Yugamo TRB is way better. Chungmu is way better. Radar Chungmu is way better than this thing in tier 9. Holy shit. It's fucking bad. It's really fucking bad. Fletcher's probably better. Like, it just isn't a threat to any ship. Is it D? It might really be D tier. It's not a threat to literally any ship. And in ranked, Jaeger's one asset, right? The one asset of Jaeger in randoms is that you're hard. You take a long time to kill because you're the size of a thimble. But in ranked, you're way less likely in your Jaeger to have any team support because there's half as many ships, right? The reason why, if you're in like a Marceau in randoms against a Jaeger, you probably can't afford to monkey rush it, is it probably has 2 or 3 ships that will inevitably shoot you. But like in ranked, that's not usually an issue as much, so like you can't afford to monkey rush it. Yeah, Kearsarge is as indisputably the only ship in tier 9 ranked that is better is Los Andes. So you're the second best BB in the game. Uh, and you also do things better than Los Andes. Like overall, Los Andes is the most broken ship in tier 9 ranked, but Kearsarge is easily number 2. And there are lobbies where Kearsarge is just definitely better than Los Andes. They now, not if you have to fight a Los Andes, right? But like if the enemy team doesn't have a Los Andes, then Kearsarge is literally the best BB in tier 9. You have the best salvo in all of tier 9. You have the best salvo in all of. Remember, Kearsarge is a Minnesota with better guns, a better hull, and a faster reload. Oh, and they gave it planes. Pretty cool. Kaba is the literal bottom of D. Like, I can't think of a tier 10 destroyer that griefs your team harder than Kaba in ranked. If I see a Kaba on my team in ranked, I'm instantly blacklisting it. Delny, not even close. Delny has usable torps. I mean, Delny's probably griefing your team too, but Delny can torp things. Delny can torpedo things. Delny can spot some DDs. The ad even says it kids suffer the most. Marceau is probably S, huh? Probably S. What's better in tier 10 rank than Marceau? Arguably Gdansk. If it's a high DD count game, maybe Gdansk. Man, I mean, Marceau is easily top 3, though. Kleb is very good in ranked, yeah. Marceau, Kleb, Gdansk, Z42, and Vamp 2, and Smolland. I would say those are like the top 6 tier 10 DDs in ranked. So where does Marceau, of Smolland, Kleb, Marceau, Z42, Gdansk, and Vamp 2, where does Marceau fall in that situation? Probably overall it's better than Vamp 2 because Vamp 2 is a feast or famine on the matchmaker. Like, if the enemy team has Smolin Z42, you might as well be in a ship without smoke, right? Marceau is more resilient. Marceau over Kleb and Z42. I would agree with that. I would say it's basically Smolin, Gdansk, Marceau as the top dogs in ranked. You would take all of them instead of Marceau? Interesting. Marceau is way... The thing is, Marceau is even better in rank than in randoms because you get to take a lot of 1v1s in Marceau, and you don't really lose to any DD 1v1 in Marceau. The only ships that you really can lose to in Marceau are like Druid, Sherman, Gdansk at certain ranges, right? I mean, I would say Smollen's overall better in ranked, and I would say Gdansk is probably overall a bit better in ranked. But Kleb is only better if you get to YOLO, right? Kleb, the only thing Kleb really has going for it in ranked specifically over Marceau is it's better at YOLO rushing. I mean, it's easily top 5. And I would say a strong case can be made for top 3. Marco Polo in tier 9 rank. Lord have fucking mercy, dude. Oh my god, please get some help. Moskva in tier 10 ranked. I would say like the strong A. I don't think it's S. I am actually of the opinion that radar in ranked is not as valuable as people pretend that it is. That might sound insane, but I actually think that like radar in ranked is not as good as it is in randoms. Moskva is really good though. It's just that it has armor. So when the BBs push you, you don't die to one salvo. Right? Like that's kind of the big thing Moskva is going for it in ranked over like Des Moines Salem is like you just don't get insta-merked. And I would say Napoli is still a strong A in ranked. Napoli's better in ranked than in randoms for sure. Or maybe it's like this. Something like that. Only problem Moskva has is Libertad and Ledge Colombo. I don't think Moskva suffers that hard against Ledge Colombo. I mean, everything does. But like on a scale of cruisers, I don't think it suffers that hard. Of all the cruisers you could play, because Colombo, you either don't go bow into Colombo and you lose half your ship in anything, or you do go bow in and it 10Ks you every salvo. Well, at least Moskva has more HP. So, there's that. New Strashimi in ranked. What do we think? Is that probably like a decent B tier ship? The cockroach heal actually matters in ranked. Copium, yeah, a little bit. But again, like, what are the best cruisers in tier 10 ranked? Hindenburg is amazing. Marseille is amazing. Napoli, Moskva, Petro, Stalin. Are those like the top 6 cruisers in ranked? Maybe. Like it's definitely like probably in the top 5. Maybe a little matchmaker dependent. Fair. Pommern in ranked is definitely like better than it is in randoms. Maybe like a strong C. I mean, it's pretty bad. The Torps are pure cope on Pommern. The secondaries are like, what, 4th best in tier 9? Dude, I got Pommern 4 years ago, and it was like the undisputed secondary king in tier 9. Truly a sad time. Well, yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. Yep. That is the problem. Yeah, it used to be great. I agree. Pommern was a beast when I got it 4 years ago. It was actually a demon. Salem in ranked is actually not bad. Maybe like a B tier ship. But see, here's the thing, dude. Like I said, the radar is less of a... honestly, this might sound crazy, but I legitimately think that that utility on a cruiser in ranked is less important than DPM compared to randoms when you play ranked. Because, like, one, there's not as many people that are going to shoot something. So, like, if you're in a Des Moines and you radar a DD, in randoms, there's probably 2 or 3 teammates that could shoot him. Now, if they're like my random teammates, they probably don't. But the point is they could, right? The radar, range is good because it's more likely to catch people and people are more likely to shoot at them. But like I would argue that the trade-off that Salem gets, which is survivability over utility, is actually better in ranked than it is in randoms. Like I would argue it's better. And the big thing with Salem is there's not really any cruiser in the game that can kill it. Like you're pretty much unkillable via cruisers. You're also kind of immune to like, okay, this might sound crazy, but it's true. Salem probably suffers less to Libtard and Colombo than like any cruiser. Because you have the super heal and the nutty DCP. So like when Libtard sets a billion fires on you and pens you for 50k, Salem heals it back. I mean, think about all the cruisers in tier 10. They all get penned by Libtard. Secondary. So like all that matters is if you can heal and put the fires out. So like it's probably up here for me, really. I mean, the future is now old man. Salem is still the 1v1 king cruiser. Yeah, I agree. Yep. I mean, when the Libtard pulls your pants down and puts it in raw and unlubed, like, you'd probably rather be in Salem than basically anything else, right? I mean, I don't think that's even really debatable, that if you're stuck bow into Colombo or Ledgemog Colombo or Libtard, Salem probably does the best. Also, people don't acknowledge this enough. Salem and Des Moines and Hindenburg are like the three cruisers that make Libtard pay for pushing them the most. Like, because you have the improved AP and Libtard has weak flat side platings. Obviously, good side platings to HE. But, like, if Libtard tries to use secondaries on a Salem at close range, like my Lighthouse Salem build, every 4 seconds that Libtard is eating like 6k damage, right? So, like, Salem especially, I don't want to say it's a hard counter to Libtard, because one lucky salvo through the bow might nuke half your ship. But, like, Salem has the cracked DCP, the best, basically the best cruiser DCP in the game. Well, in tier 10, the best, okay? Because Tianjin is tier 9. In tier 10, you have the best DCP of all the cruisers. You have one of the best heals of all the cruisers. And you have, like, the highest DPM. So, yeah, honestly, Salem's pretty mega against... Would I rather play Salem or Gnan? I would rather play Salem in ranked. Yeah, in randoms, probably Gnan. Salem is, like, really kind of a ranked beast. It's not very good in clan battles because DPM doesn't matter in clan battles, right? You want the utility. And in randoms, it's more fun than Des Moines, but probably not as good overall as Des Moines. But specifically in ranked, where people run at you, like, at the end of the day, what's going to happen in ranked is if you're playing Des Moines over Salem, you're gonna radar a DD, nobody shoots at it, and then you're gonna get pushed by a Libtard and die because you don't have Salem Seal. Salem Seal is pretty mega. Yeah, it's really good. Sherman in ranked is pretty dog shit. No torp threat of any kind, really. Honestly, is Sherman, like, straight up griefing your team in ranked? Probably not straight up griefing, because it does. Sherman's a really good counter to bad concealment gunboats, right? Sherman is a very, like, Marceau is way better than Sherman in ranked, but if they have a Marceau, Sherman counters it exceptionally hard because you have more DPM on Sherman with railgun velocity. So Marceau can either disengage, which means the range opens up so that you outtrade him heavily, or he keeps pushing, which means you can, like, literally just smoke Hydra him. So Sherman is a decent counter to a significant amount of gunboats, but it's not good in ranked at all. Tromp in ranked. Tromp in ranked. Well, it's a very strong counter to positional cruisers. Think of these cruisers we have. Tromp is a very strong counter to both of these cruisers. Tromp fights DDs pretty okay. Not great, but okay. It has okay DPM, railguns, a lot of HP. It has okay torps. The problem is, it's a counter for people that can't read a map. The problem with Tromp is, every time we talk about a boat, what do we talk about? Can it counter Pan-American ships? Not only does Tromp not counter Libtard, you might make the argument that Tromp buffs Libtard. Because every time you drop an airstrike on Libtard and Tromp, one, you don't pen it anywhere, so you don't do damage. So even if you get fires, it has crazy healing and DCP. And then every time you drop a Tromp airstrike on a Libtard, you give it like 2/5 of its F key. Yeah, dude. It's tough. Undeniably quite tough. Maybe like a shitty C tier kind of a thing. Maybe down there, something like that. The reason why, to me, Brisbane is A tier, if you're tuning in late, I'm wondering, is because Brisbane has one-shot torps on like every BB in the game, right? And you get single launch torps. And because Brisbane is more about the torps than anything else, you typically run like Pack-a-Punch on it so your torps hit for like 19k and you have 10 per side. So, like, there's really no BB in the game that doesn't get one shot by Brisbane torps. It's kind of like the biggest thing it has going for it. Tulsa in tier 9 ranked, as far as cruisers go, is solid, I would say. I would say that's like a solid ship in tier 9 ranked, maybe. I mean, of the cruisers with radar in ranked, Riga might be a bit better. Alaska's probably a bit better. Kronstadt is probably a bit better. Recent Buffalo buffs? Yeah, but Tulsa got a better buff than Buffalo did. Dreadnought. Tulsa has Destroyer Dispersion now. So Tulsa is back on top. Tulsa is definitely back on top over Buffalo, in my mind. The Destroyer Dispersion is kind of cracked. Because, like, you actually hit, like, 4 out of 4 on DDs with front guns. And, like, especially radaring DD. Tulsa now, radaring DDs is, like, legit twice as good as Buffalo. Yeah, but that's assuming you're shooting all your guns in Buffalo. I mean, maybe you are, but, like... I mean, Buffalo has... And also, it's, you know, theoretical versus real DPM, obviously, right? The radar is a good point. 100% agree Buffalo radar is better, obviously, because it's 10 km. A lot of maps were clearly designed with 10 km radar, but if you go to main battery, Buffalo has a little bit more HEDPM than Tulsa, but when you consider that this is Tulsa's dispersion, it's, you know, 15% better. 10%, 15% better than Buffalo. The big thing is when you go bow in, right? When Buffalo's bow in, it has 100k HEDPM. When Tulsa's bow in, it has over 100k with better dispersion. So, like, it depends on the situation. But, like, most of the time in Buffalo, you're not able to shoot all your guns. So, it really just depends on what's going on. Like, kiting Buffalo's better. Radaring a DD with no crossfire. And you get to greet all your guns. Buffalo's a bit better, right? But, positionally played, bow in on a rock. Tulsa has... probably like 20% better DPM with just the front guns. So it really just depends on what's going on. Yoshino in ranked, my fucking god, man. Probably a bit above Azuma because it has torps. Right? Like, at least it's every bit as griefing your team as Azuma, but at least it has torps. And then Z44 in ranked, my god again, dude. My fucking god, what are you doing? Other than giving me a free win if I'm on the red team. What are you doing playing that thing in ranked? Yeah, but I mean, you just have to play bow in. Because Los Andes doesn't overmatch 27. So it's just like, you just have to play that way. I mean, that's to me why Tulsa is like not a good ranked ship. Like, it doesn't, I mean, it's okay. It's okay. If there's no Los Andes on the enemy team, it's not bad. But I mean, of the cruisers with radar, what is like actually better? Right? Like, again, I would say Alaska, Kronstadt, and Riga are probably better. But, I mean, and then Buffalo, it's more situationally dependent on what's actually happening, right? Azuma has more points? What do you mean, like hit points? Well, the problem with Azuma is everything overmatches it. Like, there's a reasonable amount of ships in tier 10 that are played in rank that don't overmatch Yoshino. I mean, they're both griefing your team. Like, but like Yoshino can YOLO a battleship and kill it. You're surprised Nustra is this high in your ranked tier list? I mean, there's not that many DDs that are better than Nustra Sheen. There's not many good tier 9 DDs. I think it's my ultimate takeaway. DDs are just in the dirt in the Los Andes meta, dude. Like, the Los Andes meta just kind of has put DDs in the dirt. But I mean, like, the super heal on Nustra actually works in ranked because it allows you to play like a monkey and run away and then come back and play like a monkey again. And that doesn't really work in randoms. Like, the Nustra healing ability is pretty sus in randoms, but in ranked it actually kind of works. And Nustra has great torps. Nustra Shimi does have like very solid torpedoes. It's just the range is tough. But having bad range on your torps in ranked, in my mind, is inherently less problematic. But like, they hit reasonably hard. They're reasonably fast. Like they're good torpedoes, right? I mean, these are basically like Fletcher torps, very similar to Fletcher torpedoes, right? Um, like really, it's not bad like at all. Conrad for Guden, or I think Utrecht all the way. And the reason why I think on Utrecht is because of the Witherer. I've never played a boat that gets Witherer like Utrecht. I've never played a boat that gets that many Witherers. It's crazy. It's honestly insane. The problem with playing it on Guden is you're kind of coping into the third airstrike, but then you like the third airstrike is a pure cope on Golden Lion and Utrecht. Like the airstrike, the only ship to me that the extra airstrike isn't cope on is Tromp. To me, that's the one ship where the extra airstrike can actually be used. But like Utrecht and Golden Lion, you're just never storing that many airstrikes. The only time you're going to store that many airstrikes on those ships is like you won your flank and now there's nothing to do for like 3+ minutes while you relocate. Then you might have the extra airstrike and use it, right? But like even in the games where I get like 250 to 300k damage, I never use the extra airstrike on Utrecht or Golden. Like it just never comes in handy because you've always got something to airdrop, and it's not really like a good decision to wait to use them. Yeah, but the point is you never get value out of the extra airstrike. So like you're putting it on a ship that's never going to benefit from the extra airstrike and doesn't get Witherer as much. Like I get Witherer in probably half the Utrecht games I play. It's actually bananas. And Utrecht is more likely to farm the raw damage buffs. So like Utrecht is the most likely Dutch ship to get the 150k damage, and it's the most likely Dutch ship to get Witherer. And it's about as likely to get the extra airstrike as Golden or I mean PVO is like probably almost never going to get it, but I mean if you get the bonus airstrike, then yes, I would say it's like Tromp is the best, Golden is the second best, Utrecht is the third best, PVO is the fourth best. If you gain the extra airstrike. The thing is, it's just a pure cope. Like 90% of the games you get an extra airstrike. I think Kita, yeah, Kita's better than Nustra for sure. Kita would be in tier 9 ranked, probably an S. Kita's one of probably like the three best DDs in tier 9 ranked. It's incredibly good. Kitakaze and Akazuki tier for tier could just be a tier 9 and 10. Like if Aki was tier 9 and Kita was tier 10, people wouldn't really care. Like they're incredibly OP for their tier. Kita is probably in tier 9 ranked. Like I don't really even know what you would put above it. Like you could in a high DD count game, you'd probably rather be in Katsonis, but that is it, dude. Like matchmaker dependent Katsonis could be better, but otherwise, like it's definitely Kita. Kita is probably on the top dog in tier 9 ranked for DDs. No, Cossack is one of the most OP ships in the game, tier for tier. But Cossack also could be a tier 9 and people wouldn't care. The ship is crazy. It's at least like an 8.5. It's crazy OP. I mean, Kearsarge is by far the best BB for Cole in ranked. Again, it is at minimum the second best BB in the entire game in tier 9 for ranked. Marceau is at minimum a top 5. I would argue these are probably maybe we'll move Brisbane down a bit now that I'm rethinking this, because Brisbane is great in rank, but like I'd rather be in Hindenburg, probably rather be in Petro. There's a few too many ships I think that are better than Brisbane in ranked. I mean, you should still play Utrecht, dude. Utrecht is like still really strong. Utrecht is very strong without the premium captain. It's just that if you get all of the buffs, you just turn into like a super ship, right? Right? It's the same thing with Admiral Halsey. Like, if you don't have Halsey on Vermont, is Vermont now not worth playing? Like, no. Vermont is obviously still worth playing. Like, it's incredibly good. Montana, May, all of these USN ships are crazy worth playing. It's just like USN get Confederate more than almost any ship in the game. So like having Halsey just turns them into super boats. Range? No, dude. You have 17 km range on Utrecht. You definitely do not need range. And you have high DPM. So building into DPM when you have already base high DPM is already the play. The range is already god tier. Yeah, not a chance. Okay. So I'm kind of thinking. I'm trying to think. Is Black and or Gron in A? I'm trying to think. I mean, not having any torps in rank, like I say all the time, is just a grief. Right? Even Kitakaze, dude. Kitakaze's got some crazy hard hitting torps. If you push into that thing, that's part of why it's S tier. Like, not only do you have some of the best guns in all of tier 9, but like pushing into Kitakaze, it's got crazy torps to push into it. I'm kind of thinking maybe Black is a bit better. Kind of rethinking that Black is, because there's definitely some deities that are noticeably better, but not a whole lot. And it's definitely better than Groningen because you do get the torps. Why did German light cruisers have an NL flag? I know, dude. It's so sad to me because if Utrecht was in the German light cruiser tech tree, if that was just German light cruisers and they just took the airstrikes away, that's all they'd have to do. Like that's all they'd have to do. The ships would be good with no airstrike. And also Utrecht with, if you could run Lutyens on Utrecht, remember, which is what 140 main battery hits gives you 7.5% DPM, you would farm the Lutyens buff like that. You have 10 guns. You have, is it 12 guns? Yeah, you have 12 guns on Utrecht with a like 3.5 second reload. Like you would farm the Lutyens at DPM buff in like the first 2 minutes of every game. That shit would be nasty as fuck. Like they could just straight up put that fucking shit into the German tech tree and you slap Lutyens on it and it's a beast. Just literally lose that ship without the airstrikes would be a good light cruiser. Like, yeah, crazy. Okay. Hayate's probably above Sherman because you get torps. Alvaro, the only reason why I put Alvaro a bit higher in C tier is because there's a lot of DDs that you just totally cripple them with one engagement. It's not a good ship, right? C tier would be like mediocre ships. It's not a good ship in tier 10 rank, but like there's a lot of ships that you just like insta delete half of them in Alvaro and then you get away and you kind of like totally cripple their game. Tier 10 German CL line with Elbing guns. That's all I want, dude. Be the most OP boat in the game. Fucking give it to me. Honestly, Tromp is probably better than Sherman in ranked because you can impact the game without guns. Halford's pretty bad. T10 or Utrecht for randoms. They're both very good. They're both very, very good. I would say Utrecht is less team dependent because you can open water in it a lot more effectively. Jinan is specifically good in a game where your team is bad and the red team is bad and the red team pushes. That's when Jinan becomes like the best cruiser in the game, where like your flank is kind of collapsing but your DD lived and the red team is pushing into you, and then Jinan is like god tier. But Utrecht is honestly probably more consistent because you're not reliant on smoke farming. You kind of just fly around the map at 40 knots and farm. And Utrecht realistically starts more fires and gets more gun damage than Jinan because of the railguns and the pen and the range, right? We'll probably leave it about there. Realistically, yeah, I'm good with that. I am good with that. All right. Now, you know what time it is. Wait, what?